Welcome. Today's subject, PTSD and relationships. I have an article here from Sarah Rose, and listen to this article if you have gone through some traumatic things in your past, maybe some abuse, maybe some neglect, things like that. All right. So today's purpose of the video is to make you aware that maybe you can identify with this article, and just to become aware of the things that you might be suffering with because of your past. And maybe you're making some choices that lead you down that same path that you keep going over and over and over again. Hey, I used to do it myself. I used to drink for many years. I used to be, hardcore into drugs about 20 years ago. So I know what you're going through because I went through some PTSD myself as a child. So let's get to the article. All right. So Sarah Rose, I've written about this before, but one particularly long and negative relationship ended. I wanted to understand what was wrong with me. Maybe you feel that way sometimes when you go through another relationship. Here we are again. We're breaking up. It always goes down this way. I always find this type of person, and so on. You get the picture. Maybe you're there now. Okay? So to be prescribed psychotherapeutic intervention, I first needed to meet with the psychotherapist who asked me not only about my relationships, but about my eating disorder. Work environment. Think about your work environment. Is it crazy? Is it high stress? All right. Think about how your work is. How's your home life? That's a good question. How is your home life? Do you have peace and quiet? Maybe, maybe not, right? It was an interpersonal interrogation, she says, which I highly recommend. Towards the end of our session, she says, she gives me a questionnaire with 20 statements. Okay, I was to either agree or disagree. She stood near the window as I sat and circled the answers and so on and so forth. And it continues by saying, I didn't know what she meant by asking her, do you understand that you may have been in an emotionally abusive relationship? That is what she couldn't understand. She couldn't understand what she meant by that. Okay? Because I didn't know emotional abuse was a thing. Okay? She suggested I go to group therapy for abused partners, which I did, but only once. We meet in an elementary school classroom after school hours. Has passed. So can you imagine being in a high school, right? You've been out of high school forever, and you go back to those small little desks, right? Right? The program was ran by a local nonprofit, and an electric mix of people showed up. Perpetrators and recipients of intimate partner abuse sat around in a circle for 90 minutes in the group to talk things out. You know how it is. All right. The women with long braids talked about how negative relationships can cause a type of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, called post-traumatic relationship syndrome, which is PTRS, which refers to a response an individual may have to one or more exposures to a traumatic event. Have you had a traumatic event? How did it affect your life? Think about it. Where are you in your life? You know, my traumatic past led me to take a 12-year hiatus from relationships because guess what? I had to take accountability for what happened to me back in my past, and it really, really helps. It really helps a lot with your self-esteem. You end up loving yourself. You end up caring for yourself a lot more because you understand who you are. And I would love for you to understand yourself too. All right. So these traumatic events can be verbal. It was in my house. Physical. Yep. Right here too. Emotional. Of course. My mother. Right? Psychological. My mother. Right? Sexual. It also happened to me as a child. So if you have gone through any of this, I can relate. All right. And it can be difficult to go through life when nobody explains to you what happened back then. I get it. I didn't think I necessarily belonged in this classroom because, like many people in negative interpersonal dynamics, I didn't think I was bad enough. See, sometimes we get used to the bad behavior or the things that we're doing over and over again. So, I was emotionally exhausted from dynamics I recently exited and simultaneously relieved. So she left some sort of relationship, it sounds like. Like many people, I wasn't sure how I'd end up in this classroom and how I'd been reduced to walking on eggshells in the first place. Constantly, she says, afraid to say or do the wrong thing. Do you find yourself there? I hope you don't find yourself there. And if you do, guess what? If someone has a problem with you, the problem lies with that person. Okay? And you also have to think, do you have a problem with yourself? Do you like yourself? And if you don't, maybe you allow people to walk all over you. Maybe you have people-pleasing tendencies and things like that, right? And it can go too far. I've done it myself. That's why I'm talking about it. Don't do it. So, as the woman with a dozen earrings and long braids explained the negative stress associated with a form of intimate partner violence, I thought about my ex would get drunk and pick fights with whomever was nearby. Have you experienced that? I know I have. You try to stay clear of those people. Oh, that person over there has had too much to drink, and they might come over here and put their hands on me. We've been there. I've been there. So what do? You try to become a ghost so you don't deal with it. Okay? That's what we're talking about. PTSD. And then you take this into relationships, and then you just respond the way you've been responding because it's normal to you. And then we wonder, here I am again with the same results, right? Hey, it happens. So we're going to move along. Although I was relieved when the relationship was over, she said, like the lady before that was being abused. I wasn't free from worry. Some nights I would wake up in cold sweats as I relieve his anger in my dreams. She relived his anger in her dreams. PTSD, right? Sounds like it. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying PTSD and relationships. I couldn't trust anyone for a while. Do you find yourself there, right? Oh, there's that girl over there. She's pretty. I want to go and talk to her, but she might hurt me. And that really keeps you from living life. I should know. I used to do it a long time ago. I had to also work on that part of myself if I wanted people in my life. And so I had to work on myself. I had to take responsibility for what happened in my past and start actively fixing myself, because no one is going to do it for you. There's not a pill out there that is going to make it better for you. You have to actively feel what you went through in the past so your body releases it and you can move forward in life. Trust me, I had to do it. All right. So let's continue with the article. Okay. I had to let my guard down once and ended up in a group therapy session for victims of intimate partner violence in a tiny elementary school. Obviously, she's talking about where she finds herself currently. PTRS is very similar to PTSD. Is used as a formal diagnosis, while PTSD can refer to any traumatic event like abuse or a divorce. Maybe your pet died. That was also a traumatic event, right? It was important to you. You cried for your pet when the pet died. That is what we're talking about. Okay? There's a wide range of traumatic events, from death of a pet to full-on abuse, physical neglect, sexual abuse, and so on, things like that too. So there's a big range. You might, resonate with some of this. And if you do, leave us a like, subscribe, help this channel grow, and that way other people can see this and get this message so you can also help other people. So here we go. Can be referred to, PTSD can also be referred to as a traumatic event. PTRS specifically refers to relationships. All right, so PTRS specifically refers to relationships. So signs, symptoms of PTRS. All right, here we go. Listen up. Maybe you find yourself having some of these, all right? And this is your call to action to start looking at yourself. Start writing things down. Why do I do this? And start journaling. Write this stuff down. Get it out of your system and put it out on paper. And see how you feel about it. See how you feel the next day or 10 minutes after you wrote it down. Just write it down and see what happens. Sexual dysfunction or low libido. That could be a problem. Insomnia, right? It can carry your whole life, insomnia. I suffer from it. Blaming yourself for the abuse, right? We've done that. Feeling generally unsafe, anxiety or a panic attack. I've seen people have panic attacks. Doesn't look pretty. I haven't had one myself, but it doesn't look fun. Feeling on the edge or irritable. There's a lot of people. That's why it's a good idea to be kind to people, because you don't know what they've been through. Sadness or depression. Are you going through that? Maybe you have some sadness. All right? Flashbacks to a traumatic event in the relationship. Uncontrolled anger towards the abuser. Fear of future abuse. So this really keeps you from living a life. Your life. The most important life. Your life. Because you deserve the best life ever. So we're almost done with the article, and I will let you go. All right? So you can get on your journey to becoming a better person. Okay? So I'm not a medical professional, she says, and neither am I. I'm barely a professional of any kind. But I will highly recommend therapy for any form of PTSD. After the single group session I attended, she continues, I sought the help of a therapist for nearly 2 years. It was not my fault that I unknowingly endured a traumatic relationship, but it was my responsibility, like yours, and my own responsibility in how to have a better relationship moving forward. And that is the end of the video. And I suggest that you look at your life and see how you can be a better person to you, the most important person in the world. And I will see you in another video.